Okay, so there we go. So that was a video. It's really cool. It's actually, I like it because it's interesting and kind of funny. He does a lot of other work, and I'm thinking for next year I might do some more research and see if we can use more of his information. But it's not a hard watch. It's a fairly easy one. Sorry, I'm monkeying around trying to make this screen work, but it's not. So we'll just leave it alone. Okay, so from your notes, we are on about, what page are we on? Population distribution, recent population trends. Okay, we're at the bottom of page 2. And it's not very exciting because you have the blanks and I got busy and highlighted and filled in all the blanks for you. So based on the video, which either you have watched or you will be watching soon, the population since 1750, 1800s has been increasing. And from the video, you know, part of that is because the life expectancy of, decrease in infant mortality. So before the 1800s, a family might have 6 children and probably 2 of them would survive to adulthood. But starting in the 1950s and 60s, that went to having 5 children and 4 of them survived. So our population has been growing. It's also been growing on the other end of the spectrum with increased in life expectation. So because of antibiotics and I don't know, fancy medical machines and things like that, I'm thinking of people on, you know, in higher levels of care, people are living longer just generally. But on the other hand, a lot of families are decreasing the number of children. Okay, and that's choice. As you watched in the video, in some countries, they're like offering incentives and basically teaching the children in school, big families are not great and small families are good. But the lowdown is when you have population in a country, I guess I should have put that in there. There's only 2 ways that you can increase it. And that's either by birth or by immigration. So immigration means coming in. I Googled it to make sure I had these right this morning. And population is going to decrease by either death or emigration. So if you leave Canada, you emigrate to somewhere else. If someone comes to Canada someone comes to Canada, that's called immigration. And it really kind of irritates me that immigration has 2 M's and emigration has only 1. And I Googled the spelling. I think it's just bad for those of us that can't spell very well. So that's what's going on in the world today. So if you remember from the video, they did predict population is going up and up and up. And they're thinking it's going to start to level off at about 10 or 11 billion. All right, so if we look at the world population, I know you don't have this, and I'm not sure how well you can see it. Oh, maybe whoops. Nope. Dang it. I guess I can't monkey around with it. But if you look really carefully, wait, maybe I can do this. Give me a minute. If I do this, and I make this bigger, I'm going to hate because I messed up my slide. Okay, this is world population here, but instead of having it based on geography, it's based on countries. And if you look really carefully, very carefully, Canada is this little bitty pink strip up here, 37 million. Okay, so we got the states behind underneath this with 326.8 million. This is 2018, so it's a little while ago. Right, Mexico, Brazil's pretty big down there. If you look, mostly gets exciting when you look over here with India, which is 1.3 billion with 17.7% of the population, and China with 1.4 billion. Okay. So this is just based on every one of the boxes represents 500,000 people. So it's just a different way to look at the world. I'm going to go back to my slideshow. All right. Yeah. But besides the number of people in a country, it's interesting to look at population density, which is the number of people per square kilometer. So in the world, nice cat, very cute. I'm jealous, I want a cat. It's 50 people per square kilometer. In the USA, it's 36. In Canada, it's 4. Why is our population density so low? Morning, Brad.
Because we're so big. We're a big country.
We're a big country, and a lot of our country is what?
Cold.
Yes. I don't know who said that, but yes. Hold on, I got to grab my attendance. I mean, if all of Canada's area was maybe like a lovely tropical island with palm trees and sand and water and lovely climate all year, we'd probably have a lot more people living here. I met some friends down in the States, and this one guy said, I refuse to go to Canada because it's too cold. I'm not going past the 49th parallel ever. I'm like, okay, you're missing out on a lot of nice stuff. So yeah, Canada is only 4 people per square kilometer, and Saskatchewan is down to 2. So, good laugh. Good morning, good morning. All right, guys, start the screen for a minute. I just do some attendance here. All right. Oh, Clarence is here. Okay, let's get back. And then I just randomly Googled the highest country, the population density is Monaco, which has 26,150 people per square kilometer. I don't know how close that is, but that makes me kind of twinge. And the highest city population is Manila, which is in the Philippines, with 41,515 people per square kilometer. I want to do the math to see exactly how much room that is per person, but I know it's not much. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Gonna do a little math in science. So a square kilometer is gonna be 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters. That'd be like a million meters. So a million divided by 41,515. That gives you 24 square meters per person. So think of 4 by 6. So every person gets basically a small bedroom worth of space, and that's it. But then you have to factor in roads and buildings and shops and all of that. I think in Manila, it's pretty crowded. Other things to worry about with population distribution, if you look at this one, you can see persons per square kilometer. So the white area is between 0 and 5. Welcome to Saskatchewan. We're not even in there. And then as it gets closer and closer to red, it gets darker and darker. So I don't know if you guys can see where I'm pointing. What are those? There's a couple of spots here. Not in Saskatchewan, but near Saskatchewan. What do you think those are? Or you can't see. Okay, I'm thinking this is Edmonton, this is Calgary, there's Winnipeg, but that's about it. Sorry, I want to see what you guys are. All right, so top of page 3. I've got the notes out today to make sure life's good. Most Canadians live in what part of Canada?
South.
Yep. Because?
Not cold.
There you go. Yep. It's warmer. But here's an interesting question. There's this big chunk in Africa where basically it doesn't look like hardly anybody's living. Anybody know what that part is?
Is that the desert? The Sahara Desert?
Yeah, so we've got the Sahara Desert. How about in South America in this area? That's not a desert. What's in?
Is it a rainforest?
There we go. We got a rainforest going on over here. And I'm just going to move you guys. Oops. This would be the same as northern Canada. So this is northern Russia and
Like
China,
Siberia.
Siberia. Okay, so I'm going to pick on someone. Harmony, how about Australia? What's going on over here? There's not many people.
Desert?
Yeah. All right, cool, cool. So normally we tend to live in the south. The other thing, if you notice, is a lot of the population is located along the coastlines. Okay, so that's part B, near the ocean or coastlines. And there's maybe a couple of reasons for that. Brad, why would somebody live on the coast as opposed to live where we do?
I don't know.
Well, why would somebody live in Vancouver as opposed to here?
The weather?
Yep, so it could be weather.
The rain, the sun, the food.
Was that you, Jose?
Yeah.
Okay, especially the food, because remember when we talked about initial First Nation settlement, we said the Tlingit that live out in the West Coast, part of the reason that they had the big houses and the potlatches and all of that is because they had food all the time. They had a constant source of food. Another example might be, if we think about it, when the settlers came over, where did they settle? They came over on boats. The first places they're going to settle is going to be along the coastline. Okay, so bunch of choices there. And you can see there's a little bit in here, the red stuff, which is the highest population distribution. So we've got spots in India here, and also spots, I believe this is China. And I think if I zoomed in, this is the Philippines. Those are probably going to be the biggest ones. All right, oops. Factors for predicting growth. Well, one of them is really obvious. How fertile or how many children they want to have. Okay. In some European countries, it's got to the point where they're actually encouraging people to have babies because they have a negative population growth. And they're worried that there's not going to be enough young people to help look after the old people when they get really old. You've got your population pyramids. If you haven't done the lab, you should. If you have questions about the lab, feel free to talk to me tomorrow. Also, sex ratio. Genetically, or sorry, not genetically, based on evolution, there's always been slightly more males born than females. Miranda, picking on you. Why do you think that there's more males born than females?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because men are dumb. Just kidding.
Okay, I'm not touching that one.
Thought there's more females than males.
Nope. Evolution, if you count the number of male sperm and female sperm, there's always slightly more males on average. Right?
Because men are more likely to get injured when they're working and stuff, whereas women aren't, as stereotypical as that might be. But I think that's the truth.
Well, if we go back through evolution, men were generally the ones out hunting and doing war. So yeah, they tended to die off a little faster than the
They
females.
die more.
Yeah, sorry. All right, we also have state of development. So countries, I guess they used to be called third world countries or pre-industrial countries, the ones you watched in the video, right? The really poor countries, they tend to have more children. And there's a couple of reasons. One, to help the family, and two, sometimes if you have, the idea is if you have several children, there will be surviving children to look after the parents in old age. Whereas with post-industrial, which is kind of where Canada is in the US and a lot of Europe, the number of children is decreasing. And then you've got social factors. As you saw in the video, as women are educated, they can make more choices about their reproduction, whether they want to have more children, how much money, national policy. So for a while in China, it was they had what was called the one-child policy. And people would get in trouble if they had more than one child. The problem was in that culture, a boy child was the most important. You wanted someone to carry on your name to the next generation. So what they're finding now in China is they've got way more males than they do have females, and it's causing problems. Okay, but I'm not going to talk too much more about that because I know that's in the questions. There's also religion. Some religions are okay with birth control, and some are less than okay with birth control. I'm just going to fess up. I haven't paid too much attention to what the Catholic faith has been saying lately. They used to be really, really against it. I'm not sure what it is now. And also empowerment of women. Okay, so next slide. For those that joined slightly late, my goal today, possibly, is to get through most of this slides. It's either today or tomorrow, and then we're going to be done with environmental. So we did the population pyramid lab, or you should. I showed you what it looks like up on the side, which is basically a histogram. And then I said, please pay attention to the bottom of your scales, whether the population is in millions, or the population is in percents. It doesn't matter, it still gives you the same amount of information, it's just a slightly different way. All right, humans' impact on the environment. All right, I'll let you get that down as I chat. So we're gonna look at affluent or rich societies versus poorer societies. So in general, rich societies consume more food and materials. So you should be on kind of the bottom of page 3 now. If you have money, you tend to buy stuff. Right? And what you're buying is not always local. We're kind of spoiled because you know what? Most of us will buy strawberries or grapes or bananas, things that, food that isn't local or isn't in season. Produce more waste. For a long time, the American dream and the Canadian dream was to own a house out in the suburbs. You want bigger houses with more cars and technology and things like that. And they tend to have a low or a negative population growth. Dominique, what is a negative population growth? I don't understand that.
Less people?
Yeah, so less babies are being born. Instead of the population going up all the time, it's actually starting to decrease. So you've maybe got people who are, a couple that are not having children, or couples that are choosing to have only one child, right? Because if two parents have 2 babies, the population isn't going to change. It's going to stay constant. But in some places, there is that difference. All right, in poorer societies, the population is growing faster than the economy. I'm sorry, my wording there is really gross. It should be than the economy. Okay. And the government ends up not being able to afford what's called infrastructure, so hospitals, sewage, food. If you think of the pictures you've seen of like the shanty towns outside a lot of large cities, like I'm thinking Sao Paulo, Brazil, and probably Manila, and I can't think of any other ones like that. But, right, where they just put up a town and there are no roads and there is no sanitation, all of that stuff. Okay, that's because the government can't afford the infrastructure. There's often overuse of land. I mean, we get mad, well, why don't they understand the tragedy of the commons, or why don't they, not overgraze this? They're killing the grass because they're having to feed their family. It's survival. And I think that's a tough decision. And the same thing with clearing the land, right? If your family is starving, I don't think you're going to, I'm not sure that you're going to care about the beautiful biodiversity of the rainforest. You're caring about getting your family fed. All right, and then at the bottom of the page, do you see where it says sustainability project? You just take your pen and you just cross that off. We're not doing that. We kind of ran out of time. And the final project we're doing actually is kind of a version of it anyway. And we already did the Tragedy of the Commons activity. That was fishing in a pond with the clothespins and the peas. If you haven't done that, we could set it up tomorrow, or we can talk about what options are, because you really need 4 people, 3 or 4 people to do that. All right, waste management, ta-da. You know what time is it? Somebody tell me, what time is it really? 10:26. I think we'll save this fun for tomorrow. We have more math to do. I wanted to get done, but let's save it for math. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording.